Welcome to the KBD podcast, soon to be a different name.
Yeah, we got to talk about that.
Yeah, we definitely got to brainstorm.
I love how you guys are just like, no answer for the fucking, like, for 2 days. And it's like, yeah, let's talk about it in person. Yeah, good.
But, okay, so back on Canadian politics. There's a lot going on in the news. And Elliot and I were just discussing today that, you know, we wanted to cover the tariffs, but the tariffs are actually becoming quite tiresome and quite like, we don't know what this guy is going to do. And we don't know the response of Canadians, what it's going to be, what's kind of very difficult to follow. So last night I was like, oh, okay, no tariffs. Oh, okay, there are tariffs. Oh, there's this. Oh, there's that.
Yep.
It's always changing. But I'd kind of just like to start with that.
Yeah.
I heard a really interesting perspective the other day from a guy named Mario. Mario, I forget your last name, but he's a TikTok guy. He's actually got a pretty good following.
His name,
the bald-headed guy.
Yeah, it's Mario Saves Canada. I think
yeah, Mario Saves Canada.
Yeah.
Very eloquent speaker. Does his stuff. He does a lot of investigative journalism, even though he's not a journalist. But
we're all
we'll
journalists.
call it that. Yeah, we're all journalists now. And I thought he had a really good theory. He's like, the 51st state, and he read Trump's Art of the Deal. And he goes, you put not a barrier, you put something that's so outrageous, and the outrageousness being Canada becoming the 51st state, that essentially, so you get that in someone's mind, the Canadians or Trudeau or us, just as a population, you get that in their mind that essentially once we think he's actually serious, we'll negotiate on anything else that doesn't involve becoming the 51st state. A lot of Canadians don't want to become the 51st state. I personally wouldn't mind becoming the 51st state just for tax purposes.
Likewise.
And other stuff. But his theory was he has no intention, even though he's saying he wants Canada to become the 51st state. And again, maybe he does. I don't know. We have no idea.
You know, I was at a gym earlier today, and I saw this conspiracy theory, but it actually makes so much sense as to why Canada becoming the 51st state is actually a matter of national security for the U.S.
It's a matter of national security.
But above and beyond, like stuff that people have never even considered. But I'm not going to get into it right now.
But I'll just finish his theory. It's essentially that he wants our resources. We have the third biggest oil reserves in the world. We have plenty of critical minerals. We have a lot of very, very, very important minerals. I think it's complete bullshit when he starts talking about how, you know, Canada, we're ripping them off $200 billion a year. That's just not true. But Mario's theory is that he says, I've been saying this all along, he has no intention of making us the 51st state. However, I think he is interested in becoming kind of like a European Union-esque type of relationship between the United States and Canada.
I believe that.
And he wants the oil. And why does he want the oil? Why does he want the resources? For numerous amounts of things, but especially, and we talked about this in last week's podcast, for the AI race. AI, in order to be competitive, we need to have cheap energy. So if there's an abundance of oil, an abundance of natural gas, abundance of uranium, abundance of whatever else, then basically we being Canada and the United States can afford to fuel these data centers with cheap energy. And you know what? That theory actually makes a lot of sense. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if Donald Trump came back. And I don't think he actually wants to make us the 51st state. I think he wants to have some type of economic deal. But I mean, just for the Canadians listening out there, and this is also like a topic of conversation I want to kind of double click on today. The media is doing a really good job of spinning it as United States bad, Canada good.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you noticed, but during the Super Bowl commercials, every single commercial said proudly Canadian on it. Proudly Canadian, proudly Canadian, proudly Canadian, proudly Canadian. And I think they're doubling down on that. But I think a lot of Canadians don't understand what is going to happen if we actually have a trade war and they actually tariff our products and we tariff them back, how bad it's going to be for Canadians. Like, we are not going to win this battle.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, I was really shocked that, and we can get into this later too, that one of the polls, which was only 1,000 people, by the way, that, you know, people said Mark Carney would be the best suited person to deal with Donald Trump with regards to negotiations over Pierre Poilievre. I found that very surprising. So obviously that's like, the data is a little bit questionable.
Of course.
But I don't know, I just think a lot of Canadians are kind of naive to this situation. And Yeah, so that's kind of like a big salad, a word salad I just gave to you. But
What makes me honestly laugh so much about Canadians going crazy about the tariffs, though, is that we lost our marbles when it came to a foreign government taxing us 25%. But yet, April 1st, our own government's about to increase the carbon tax by what, 20, 25%?
20%.
20%. So again, we're getting mad at a foreign government, but the biggest taxing body on Canadians is the Canadian government.
It's ourselves.
You know, Canada taxes us more than anyone else, and yet not a peep. Nobody bats an eye at the fact that we're being overtaxed. So,
do you think? I just want to take a little bit of a tangent here. Do you think legacy media still has more influence on Canadians today in comparison to legacy media in the United States?
So that's actually a question I wanted to bring up. And it's got me thinking, just this mass bending of Canadians against the U.S. supposedly overnight. I mean, it happened overnight. It used to be Americans, they're cool, whatever, they're friends. And then overnight, they became public enemy number one. And it got me thinking. It made me think back of a few years ago.
It surprised me.
Yeah. So what's with Canadians? Because I don't think Americans are quite the same. But what's with Canadians that makes them so susceptible to herd mentality, to groupthink?
Yeah.
Because, and that's
COVID.
That's a great one too.
Yeah.
You know, why do you think that is? Because it's hard to really pinpoint any other nation or groups of people that so vehemently, not a word, but yeah, it is a word. Just pronounce
it is a word.
Just horribly pronounced, but yeah, so strongly band together the second the marching order is given by the authority figure, without any question as to why. What's the issue? How come we're like that?
I don't know. It's like we're very collective, but we're not at the same time. It's like I can't put my finger on it, man.
It's
and it's
weird.
like, yeah, it is very strange, but it's just like I feel like if a lot of Canadians were actually educated on how badly we're going to lose this battle, a trade war with the United States.
Yeah.
I don't think they know until it's going to be too late.
But even further than just the trade war, the reaction to the visceral reaction to opposing being the 51st state or being integrated in the U.S. It's like there's not even a second where we look at, okay, what could be the benefits? And what Trump said, by the way, you know, you'd pay half the taxes, you'd be defended. I mean, those are all very good points. You'd have lower taxation, you'd have a better economy, higher paying jobs, lower cost of living, access to more locations, territories to live in, a good army. There's a lot of net positives. And maybe there's also some net negatives. But why aren't Canadians just sitting down and being like, okay, let's analyze this. What's best for us? Instead, we just band together all of a sudden because, again, our overlords appears to tell us it's bad. We'll never become a state. And then we're just like, yeah, we hate America, to the point now where people are boycotting America. People are canceling their vacations. Dude, this is funny, and I don't mind talking about this.
Do you think that's a smokescreen, though? They're canceling their vacations. Is it more so just because of the fact that our dollar's so weak and they're pretending that it's for
that's a very good
nationalism?
point. You know, I saw in the newspaper the other day, that cracked me up. I opened and just this Canadian businessman saying, I sold my house, I hate Trump, I'm moving back to Canada. And I look at the name, right? His last name is Deveau. He's one of my investors. And I'm like, what the fuck? And this guy is like the biggest kind of like entrepreneur, always shit talking to Quebecois, saying like, doing business here sucks. I love Florida, it's the best place in the world. And all of a sudden, you know, selling his house and saying I moved back to Quebec because screw Donald Trump. And it's like, again. But you're right. Things are all of a sudden like 40% more expensive.
There's also too, like, this was happening before all this trade war talk started. A lot of people were selling their snowbird residence because the cost got too expensive.
Yeah.
So it's like all of a sudden, if you have a snowbird residence, you have to pay for, so your dollar's getting absolutely hammered.
Destroyed.
You're making money in Canadian, and basically all your costs down in the U.S. are in American dollars.
Yeah.
Your insurance is going up, your property tax is going up, this is going up, that's going up. You probably have to renew a new mortgage rate. Everything's getting more expensive. You have to pay in American dollars. So this was happening before the trade war talking happened.
In Florida specifically, all the condos that need a contingency fund now. They're being reassessed, a special assessment, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes at the tunes of hundreds of thousands of dollars
crazy.
overnight.
It's crazy.
It's wild.
Well, it's ever since that one
collapse.
Collapse, and they put a lot more stringent regulations around that stuff, which I kind of get. You know what I mean? Like, it's not okay for a condo to just full blown collapse.
For sure.
But anyways, that's neither here nor there. But I back on the question you asked. I think my theory is Canadians are more easily influenced. I think because we have we're more trusting. I I don't know, like when it comes to business for myself, I am very trusting with other people in business, whereas Americans, I don't think it's the same thing. Maybe it's a culture issue. I don't know what the exact answer is, but yeah, it's like.
But you find in the U.S. they're less trusting. Cause my experience doing business in the U.S. versus Canada is here we're very risk averse and it takes forever to take a decision.
Yes.
Whereas in the U.S., I was having this discussion with a colleague of mine recently actually about going to the U.S. And I was telling that person, you know what? In the U.S., they're going to give you a chance. Here in Canada, they're going to ask you 27,000 questions, references. They want a credit check. They want everything. In the U.S., they'll give you a chance, but one chance. Fuck it up and you're done.
Mm-hmm.
But they'll try. They'll take a leap on you. You know. Here in Canada, I don't know. Has that been your experience or?
I work in a different industry, so it's basically like there's a lot of barriers to entry in my industry, and a lot of the people that give the money, they already they have a very big stranglehold.
Yeah.
I think that also has to do with the fact that in America, there's more disposable income, more wealth. So for someone who's worth, example, $1 billion, and they have to toss around $2 million, $1 million to give in like an angel investor, they don't really care. Sure. Whereas if someone here is worth,
but even clients, like I'm talking about, like you go to a manufacturer, you want to do a business with them, they'll give you a product a try.
Yeah,
they'll give it a shot.
That's
better be good though.
That's I don't really know, but it's just like.
Well, Peterson said that, you know, it's Americans have this can-do entrepreneurial attitude. I don't think we have that in Canada. We're not like can do. We find like we lead from the principle of like what could go wrong, instead of Americans, I believe, they lead from the principle of what could go right. Mm-hmm. You know, so they enter every endeavor with this is going to work out. Here's the upside. Whereas I think in Canada we look like, okay, here's the downside. Let's protect against the downside, and if there's an upside, good for us.
Yeah.
You know?
Because it's like watching the Super Bowl yesterday. I don't know. I was like really in tune with all the commercials. So I was watching the Canadian version. So it was all the Canadian commercials. So the first part that got me kind of pissed off was the fact that almost every commercial was for Bell. So whether that was TSN, Bell itself directly, or Crave, which is owned by Bell. Mm-hmm. So the first thing that went through my mind was, okay, how much are you guys ripping me off for my cell phone plan if you guys basically monopolize over 50% of the commercials I'm seeing right now are by Bell? Mm. And then it would always finish with a proudly Canadian. And I'll bet you anything that they threw in a last minute change to the actual ad itself to say proudly Canadian at the bottom. So by the time it was launched on CTV, proudly Canadian, just to kind of, right now there's a lot of hurrah around Canadianism. Yeah. And like, I don't know, it's like, whenever there's a herd mentality like that, it just makes me, I don't know what's going on. I was kind of like almost a little bit disappointed. I'm disappointed because maybe I'm dumb and maybe I'm the wrong one here, but I just feel like a lot of Canadians don't actually understand what's going on, and it's think
virtue signaling again, just a different kind of virtue.
Yeah. Like it's back to the same thing, and I feel like they don't know what's actually going on. And I'll just repeat myself again: if there's going to be a trade war, we're going to get our asses absolutely handed to us. Like economically speaking, we're in a weak position. Donald Trump has a lot of leverage. We went through all the data last week, not going to go through it again, but basically our provinces, our country's GDP, a big portion of our country's GDP depends on exports to the United States. If they tariff a lot of that, that's going to be a massive effect in a negative way on our GDP, on our productivity. We already have a big productivity issue. And then you just get these guys, like you get a Mark Carney talking about, Donald Trump's against wokeism. We're here to stand with diversity. And everyone just eats it up. And it's like, I don't know, like I kind of start to think like, am I just fighting a losing battle and should I just leave? Or like, I don't, it made me kind of sad almost. And even some of my friends who are educated and business owners, not all of them, but some of them, they don't see through it either. And it surprises me.
I was having a discussion with my father this weekend, and I told him this. I'm like, I honestly have contempt for Canadians who just willfully stay here and accept it. And it's going to sound really fucked up, but I see Canadians really in like 3 categories. They're the fools, the people who don't respect themselves, or the weak. And I'll explain to you what I mean by that. The fools are the people that just don't seem to understand the reality of things, right? The kinds that are saying, carbon tax is really saving the environment. We're doing our part. To me, that's just a fool. That's someone who just lacks the understanding of what's really happening.
There's a lot of them like that.
Plenty of them.
A lot.
Then there are the people.
I think anyone who votes for the Liberal Party honestly thinks they're doing their part.
Exactly.
They honestly think
they do.
Like they're brainwashed. But this is, again, sorry to cut you off, but it's just like they think that it comes from a good place. It's well intentioned, but they actually think that they're helping to save the environment. They really think that.
Yeah, it's just a lack of knowledge and understanding. I don't want to call them idiotic, but it's just a lack of information.
Yeah.
And I believe if they were exposed to the info, they would change their tune. But regardless,
I don't know if they would though.
Well, 'cause the thing is this: don't forget, a lot of people do tie their identity to their beliefs, and that becomes very touchy once you start. That's where cognitive dissonance comes from.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's the fools to me. Then there are the people who don't respect themselves. Those are the people that get home, and I see this all the time, especially in Quebec. I can't believe the taxes. I'm fed up with the roads. I'm fed up with the healthcare system, and they just bitch and complain all the time, right? And a bit like what we do, but I'm actively working on getting the fuck out of here. And you're already at the stage where you're questioning,
Yes.
But those are people who don't respect themselves. They know they're being ripped off. They know that they're living suboptimally. Their life quality is worse than it could really be if they only left, and yet they choose to stay. So those people just don't respect themselves. I mean, right now, I'll be honest, I clearly don't respect myself. I'm here. I know I could have a better life elsewhere. And then there are the people that are weak. Those are the ones who are just say, yeah, but it's too hard. It's too hard to leave. It's too hard to fight the system. It's too hard to do what's right. So I just kind of give in. I take the easy way out. And it's maybe I'm getting older and that kind of I'm thinking of Clint Eastwood and that movie is just on his porch with his shotgun and shit, looking down at the youngins. But I feel like I'm turning a bitter old man now because I literally just told you that I view Canadians as either weak, fucking don't respect themselves, or fools. That's horrible. But to tie in a little bit though, why are Canadians so easily kind of duped or manipulated, if you wish, or susceptible to groupthink? And I think it leads to the next topic, which is DOGE, and that's something I really want to get into. And I know you have a lot of points about DOGE as well, but I think we're going to start seeing very soon that a lot of the media and the narrative ain't so grassroots, ain't so organic. Mm-hmm. I think it's actually quite manipulated and funded as well. So, I mean,
well, we have our data points to show that.
We do. So if you want to get into it, well, first and foremost, because a lot of people, so DOGE right now is everywhere. And the Democrats, the liberals, the left, the progressives, anywhere in the world, we're talking Europe, Canada, definitely the US, they're losing their marbles. They're losing their fucking mind at Elon Musk and the DOGE department. So first and foremost, I think we should define what is DOGE. A lot of people just don't realize what's going on. So, I mean, is that something that
I'm ready to talk about?
You're ready to talk about?
Absolutely.
Let's fucking get into it.
So we got some of the topics we got. So DOGE, for those of you that don't know, Department of Government Efficiency. So it's essentially this actually, I was doing some research on it. So it started with Bill Clinton. So back in the day, he actually started a department. It was under a different name, but it's just a department that was tasked with making sure that the government was running as efficiently as possible. It was never really implemented. So Department of Government Efficiency. It was originally Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek Ramaswamy has since left. I think he wants to become the governor of there's one of the states in the United States. Something like that.
Ohio, yeah.
And so, in short, it's just a department saying, hey, where is all of our taxpayer-funded money going? So the government collects taxes off of the people. The government then spends money for what you would think is for social services, for the better of the people. But sometimes they go rogue. And recently with Department of Government Efficiency, they're finding a lot of stuff that is questionable at best. And so Elon Musk has a team of tech people. There's literally 6 tech geeks, and they go, so USAID. Yeah. So they just went into the USAID with these 6 tech geeks, and essentially went in and said, okay, where is this money going? What's this $22 million? What's this $10 million? What's this $300 million? Where's the money going? And you would think that a government, they are accountable to the voters. Yeah. And so they're asking these questions, and the Democrats, or not all the Democrats, but a lot of them are losing their minds. They're absolutely losing their minds.
They're going ballistic.
Yeah, they're going ballistic. And so, but again, a lot of people are kind of, and especially Canadians, they're going wow, Elon Musk, he's such a piece of shit. He's not a good person. He's doing this, he's doing that. He's not getting paid for this.
No, he's not.
He's literally going in, and he's trying to do this for the better of the country, to try and understand where the money is being spent on and where the waste, fraud, and abuse, if I can quote Donald Trump, waste, fraud, and abuse, where is all this money going? And they're absolutely just losing their mind. But so here's just a couple of examples. So USAID, which ultimately was shut down, and the analogy that Elon Musk gave was, if you got a worm in the apple, you know, you just take out the worm, it's not the end of the world. However, if you have a bucket full of worms, well, you got to throw out the bucket. There's nothing there. And that was the analogy that he gave to USAID. He said that the department itself was so infected, it was so corrupt, that he basically said, okay, we just got to get rid of this. And then some other people will just basically say, oh my God, you can't do that. They're sending money for foreign aid. They're sending money for this. They're sending money for that. That money doesn't necessarily, like, it's not being absolutely stopped. That money can still be redirected to other departments that can actually spend the money responsibly. So just like a little example, so USAID, they were giving money to media organizations outside of the United States and inside of the United States as well. But they were giving money to BBC, the British Broadcasting Company. That's a massive one. Politico, that's an American broadcast company. 11 out of 12 media organizations in Ukraine were being given from USAID. So it was essentially, or had essentially become, a left-wing think tank.
Yeah.
And they were sending money to make other governments and make other media organizations propagate far left-wing values. That's essentially what they were doing.
It's interesting to look at how it all started. Honestly, there's a lot of material to cover with that. So first, I think and I don't want to bring it back, sorry for doing that, but it's just a 4D chess that Trump played in creating DOGE in the first place. Because notice that there's been very little legal battle and challenge against it. Just a lot of hoo-ha-ha, a lot of Democrats going crazy, but nothing is being done, which is funny because a lot of times with other executive orders, right away there's a court order against it.
They did, sorry to cut you off there, and sorry, Shem, but this is but they did actually just say on the Treasury.
The Treasury thing, yes. For the payment system,
yes.
They gave a 1 week kind of
No, but stop. Elon can't go look at it himself. It has to be
there's
someone
3
else.
people that
Correct.
are, exactly.
Correct.
But the reason why they're not shutting down DOGE itself, DOGE was actually created under Obama. Okay.
Sorry.
It was under
My
Obama,
bad.
under the it was called the U.S. Digital Service, and it was actually a small little obscure department that was supposed to oversee the implementation of technology within the Obamacare, right? So Obamacare, an act of Congress, and they kind of carved a little department, executive department, under the White House, the president, to oversee the implementation of technology and efficiency in running technology in the medical system. So what Trump did in his executive order, he didn't create a brand new department. He simply rebranded U.S. Digital Services as, and this cracks me up, U.S. DOGE Service. It still keeps the same acronym, USDS, U.S. DOGE Service.
Okay.
And this allows them to commandeer the budgets that are already passed and already lawfully appropriated by the White House to run this department. So there's nothing that can be done. This is a department that ran under Obama, Trump 45, Biden, and now Trump 47. Also, the purpose of DOGE is efficiency through technology. And that, like you mentioned, and you're completely correct, it's a bunch of nerds that are going in using AI and other tools to look at technology to implement cost-saving measures. It's unbelievable.
They're in their 20s. Like they're not like 45-year-old kids.
Oh,
they're literally like, there's a kid that was as young as 19 years
Yep.
old.
Yeah. There's also Big Balls. That cracks me up, man. Have you seen the whole Big Ball scandal?
No, I haven't seen that. No.
Okay, so there was this guy, because again, the Democrats, what they do best, they tried to dox people. So they doxed who was working for DOGE, realized it's a bunch of kids, like you said. And you know what? I'm all for that. I'm all for young, driven, talented individuals. I mean, after all, World War II, what was the median age of a soldier during World War II?
I have no idea.
22 years old.
Yeah, there you go.
That was the median age of people who fought on D-Day and whatnot. So you know what? Kids nowadays, or kids always, have supported and helped the U.S. So by all means, good for them. If they're talented, love it.
Yeah.
But they found that this one guy had an online kind of not alter ego, but like one of his accounts online, don't remember for what, was called Big Balls. And they lost their shit. And then eventually, like, the guy was let go, and JD Vance jumped in. And he said, you know what? I'm all for reinstated Big Balls, like straight up Big Balls, because he's like, I believe everyone deserves a second chance. And on top of that, everyone grows up and changes their narrative over time. It's like, I've made mistakes when I was in my early 20s, and I said things I don't believe anymore today. And is that like something that I should be chastised for the rest of my life? No, of course not. You change, you evolve. So we should bring him back in. And of course, Elon, in his infinite fucking trolling, he posted a poll on X his usual kind of like, vox populi, vox dei, like the voice of the people, the voice of God, saying, should we reinstate big balls? Obviously, everyone fucking voted yes. So big balls is back. Good for him. But yeah, so that's just a little bit of the idea behind what DOGE is in order to understand why right now the Democrats can't do shit about it. So that's number one. But yes, then they started looking into the biggest, what I believe, one of the biggest slush fund ever. It has to be a scandal at this point, but notice the media really doesn't talk much about it.
No.
And it's USAID or USAID.
Yes.
So
and the total budget for USAID, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was $54 billion.
it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And what they do, and another reason why right now USAID is getting away with it, and this I got to credit someone for finding it. There's like, the way they made their money is, or the way they used the funds as a slush fund without any kind of traceability behind it is, one, they sent money to government-funded NGOs, or they send money to NGOs, right? Non-governmental organizations. So USAID gives a grant to these NGOs for vague things like strengthening education or whatever, right? Something that like you can get behind a little bit. Then that NGO takes the money and dumps millions of it into what's called a donor-advised fund, a donor-advised fund, a DAF. The DAF isn't required to disclose what the NGO told them to do with the money. But somehow, and this is, the racket, every hyper-political nonprofit with a sketchy agenda ends up getting funded. And they get their money not from the NGO, who gets their money from USAID, but they get their money from the DAF, that gets the money from the NGO. It kind of creates a separation that allows them after that to use that money for hyper-political things. And, I'm sure you got you mentioned Politico, $8 million.
Yeah.
Do you have other figures of what
New
it was?
York Times was getting money.
New York Times, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, the New York Times was getting money. Politico was the biggest one, but even BBC. So it's basically
AP.
like all of these other important media organizations around the world that are basically getting money. So obviously, and this is the same thing. I just want to tie this into CBC. So CBC, if you're getting money from the government, and by the way, this is factual, when Justin Trudeau, and by the way, brilliant politically, and we've talked about this before, when Justin Trudeau came to power, he gave more money to CBC, obviously to have favorable media coverage. Yeah. That's obviously what he did. Yeah. Brilliant move politically. And this is why I'm going to be honest. This is putting my morals to the side. I don't think it's a very good idea for Pierre Poilievre or the next Conservatives to be cutting funding to a media organization like CBC. If I was to be completely 100% playing politics, I would actually give CBC more money than what the Liberals were giving and try and just get favorable media coverage that way. Or just start your own media organization.
Yeah.
Which is what we're trying to do.
Damn right.
But it's like, and I think just, I'm really stuck on this part with Canada. It's like, I think the fact that people don't really have alternative media sources, so we have CBC, CTV, everything's very left-leaning. There's no right-leaning. Yeah. The only right-leaning publication I would say is National Post. Global Mail is pretty centrist. I think they do a pretty good job after all the stuff that I've read off of Global Mail. But National Post doesn't have. It's not like CBC.
It doesn't have the following.
No, and they have like Toronto Sun. Toronto Sun does like a pretty good job as well. They have some YouTube videos. They probably get 100,000, 200,000 views every single time they launch something. But again, still not the exact same thing.
It's minute.
Yeah, it's minute. So, but there's no like big funding behind an alternative media source for Canada. And I think that's why Canadians, we have our head in the sand a little bit when it comes to stuff like this, because when you speak about Donald Trump and when you speak about Elon Musk, for the vast majority of Canadians, maybe not vast majority, but especially us who live in liberal land, they hate him. They hate both of them.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, why do you hate him? Oh, because Elon Musk is just trying to get rich.
Yeah.
Okay, can you elaborate on that? And they can't give you any other points.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's like...
But then it makes you wonder, and for me, again, it just blows my mind. I really wonder nowadays how much of the left is manufactured, all right? Knowing now that effectively the Biden administration, and past Democratic administration, what they did, it took taxpayer money, funneled it through USAID, and then used that money to prop up global, and we're not talking just one here, we're talking global media companies around the world, in Europe, in Canada, in the UK, in the US, obviously, to push a narrative. It makes me wonder how much of the left is manufactured. And here's what's funny. You talk to most liberals and they say, a lot of it is grassroots, right? It's from the bottom up. It's not. It's top down. It's manufactured from A to Z. It's faked. And, to me, it's all smoke and mirrors. And I really wonder now that the tap is being shut down, it's being closed off, right? The valve is being turned off. how much of those left-leaning medias that are pushing all the time this discourse and this, to be honest, quite truthfully, propaganda on us, how much is that going now to influence us? How much of, the first thing that comes to mind is like the rallies of Biden and Kamala Harris, how they were empty.
Did you see the episode with, do you follow the Sean Ryan podcast?
I don't know.
Okay, so the Sean Ryan podcast, there's this lady that just went on. So she worked as a fundraiser within the Democratic Party. And so she she full blown spilled the beans.
Yeah.
So she goes, Beyonce, Oprah, Cardi B, and she kept going name after name after name. She goes, they all deny that they got paid by the Democratic Party to basically come and speak on behalf and promote the Democratic Party. She goes, bullshit. We paid all of them.
Yeah.
Who's the super popular black interviewer guy? Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton, who works, get this, Al Sharpton, who works for MSNBC as a journalist, was paid $500,000 by the Kamala Harris campaign to do the interview. I thought you were a journalist. They paid him $500,000, but you're absolutely right. And I think it's kind of slowly but surely starting to come out. Yeah. But it's not coming out again on legacy media, and I think that Canadians,
because they're trying to protect themselves.
Yeah, yes, of course. But Canadians, we still haven't woken up that we have to stop watching legacy media. Some of us have. People like in our age category where we have definitely woken up. But the boomers and people I would say like 45 years and older, they have not woken up. They still have trust in the institution of news in Canada. Yeah. And I think this is why it just keeps coming back around. Like you and I look at this, and we go, what the hell is going on?
But it explains so much now. Now you understand why. Because you mentioned earlier, I feel like it's a losing battle. Maybe I'm losing my marble. It's designed to do that. It's designed to demoralize you. You think like eventually, no, I mean, I can't be the only one who thinks this. Oh my God, this is insane. But no, you have an entire system funded with billions of dollars, by the way, to try to play on your mind. It is it's oddly enough, it's information warfare. I don't want to say InfoWars here, but it's information warfare. It's straight the fuck. And I mean, look, to give you even a crazier example, okay, the department, and this again blows my absolute fucking mind. The Department of Defense provided $9.1 million to Reuters, all right?
Yes.
For 2 programs, one called Active Social Engineering Defense, and the other one called Large Scale Social Deception. What the fuck?
Look, what does that even mean?
Large scale social deception? At this point, to me, that's manipulation. That's propaganda. We look at World War II, right? Under Goebbels, the Nazi regime and their propaganda, the minister of propaganda, how much they had the population under their thumb.
Well, he was like the second most important person after Hitler.
After the painter, yeah.
So you have to disseminate the message. You have to disseminate the idea, the why around like, okay, why is it worth this for us to be like, well, what's the goal? What's the end goal of us as like an organization, as a group of people?
Media can control if you can control the narrative, you control people's minds.
And this is one of the reasons why like I get frustrated again with a lot of Canadians. It was very obvious that the Liberals were pushing all of this online regulation for messaging. It was so, like for you and I, it's so obvious what they're trying to do. They're trying to control the narrative online because they realized, hey, by the way, like this is not a battle that we're winning right now. We need to control the narrative online. And Canadians, again, they didn't see through that. And they mask it as, oh, we're here to protect your children. We're here to make sure that there's no sexual abuse online. We're here to make sure that there's no bullying online. And they always hide behind that.
It's always a virtue.
It's always a
virtue.
Because
it's hard.
Every single time.
It's hard to
How do you oppose that?
Exactly.
Oh, what do you mean? You don't want to protect children where there's child pornography on there? You don't want to protect those little child?
Exactly. And that's why you have to look, honestly, and like, here's some of the ridiculous projects that USAID funded. Yeah. Because it's hilarious. $7.9 million to teach Sri Lankan journalists how to avoid binary gendered language. All right. What the fuck? 20 million for a new Sesame Street show in Iraq.
Yeah, I heard
okay,
that,
like that's a stupid, right? Freaking 1.5 million for art for inclusion of people with disabilities. 2 million for sex changes and LGBT activism in Guatemala. You know, like, I mean, I could go on and on and on and on and on and on and on. I mean, it's ludicrous. It's the biggest slush fund ever. But here's what's even more fucked up. I don't remember which one. It's like a prime minister in Africa, right? Who basically his country was listed as the recipient of a bunch of these programs and money. And he came on and he did a press conference saying, we thank Elon and President Trump for uncovering this because we never received the money. You know what I mean?
No,
and then
there
it makes
you go.
You wonder, who's really getting paid?
Yes,
here, you know?
that's exactly, and this is happening in like a lot of countries across the West. But let's just kind of like double click on this for Canada. So, to my understanding, Global Affairs Canada. So this is essentially the equivalent of USAID in the United States. So they are a government department that manages Canada's international relations, trade, and development. So the first thing that I found on their webpage was basically, so Minister Hussein, I don't even know who that is, but he announced this is in Canada, Minister Hussein announces $360 million for global efforts to eliminate malnutrition. Okay, that sounds like a really virtuous thing to do.
Sounds nice, yeah.
But this is also at a time when over 2 million people, in March 2024, 2 million people in Canada visited the food banks. This is the highest number ever recorded. This is a 90% increase since March of 2019. Here's another example. This isn't directly from the Global Affairs Canada, but just another example. Since February 2022, Canada has committed $19.5 billion, that's with the B, to assistance in Ukraine. So there's, again, all of these types of things. And something that I've heard from Ukraine is, and I don't know Canada's place in this, but I know for a fact with the United States, whenever they're sending money to Ukraine, the United States, to buy the weapons, they have to go through American defense contractors. Mm-hmm. To rebuild all the infrastructure, they're going to go through American banks and American investment banks like Blackstone. So it's essentially, like, again, like you said, a big slush fund. They're sending money down to Ukraine. Yeah. It goes to American companies and it circles right back to them with a massive kickback. Mm-hmm. So people need to kind of understand this. And this is not... Look, I'm always going to say this. Republicans and Democrats, conservatives and liberals, they're all corrupt at the end of the day. Eventually, they will become corrupt. But again, this just has to come down to government accountability. And what I'm trying to preach is that you always have to hold the government accountable. And there's a lot of people that, like, this is, again, the argument that, like, I can get it sometimes, but people who are on the left, they do not believe in the institutions of corporations. And for good reason. There are many examples of where corporations will screw over people. They'll be super greedy. Absolutely. True. But then for whatever reason, they give all of their faith into the institution of government.
As if that is uncorruptible.
Exactly. And I would debate that it's even more corruptible than corporations. And again, it's just one group of people versus another group of people.
Exactly.
So it's like, I don't know. All this money has gone completely rogue. They're losing their minds because they know that there's something that they're trying to hide. Yeah. And I just keep tying it back to Canada. We haven't, guys, as this becomes uncovered here in Canada and on Global Affairs Canada, this was last week. I don't know if it's like this today, but today we're on February the 10th. If you went to the webpage last week to try and visit and say, hey, where is all this money going? The page was 404 not found. You couldn't find it. You didn't know where the expenses were going. And they're like, oh, sorry, this is a technical glitch.
Yep. I mean, that happened, right? So as
give me a break.
As USAID was starting to break and more people were looking, wait a second, do we have something similar in Canada? All of a sudden, you're right. They scrubbed the database. They scrubbed the database of Global Affairs Canada. But luckily, the internet does not forget. See, there's something called Internet Archives. You can go back and see at various times, and point. So I got some Internet Archives
from the tech guy. I want to hear this.
Okay? So I went to the Internet Archives, okay? It's called the Wayback Machine, and I've managed to pull out some of the things that Global Affairs Canada has spent money on, all right?
I want to hear this. Good job, Elliot.
Some of them are not, okay, so they're not necessarily the biggest ticket item. They're just, to me, ludicrous and, like, stupid as fuck, all right? So let's take this. $18.5 million, okay? It's labeled accessing full range of sexual and reproductive health in Mozambique. Who cares? Okay. Another one, $21 million for access to judicial services in Haiti, a failed state with no judicial system in the first place. Who cares? $12 million for access to health fund in Myanmar. Okay. $15 million for access to health rights in Burkina Faso. Like, again, that money is not going to anyone, but it's going into the pockets of a few people, right?
Yeah.
$10 million for elimination of gender-based violence in Benin. $18 million for accelerating regional business growth in East Africa. Okay. $7.2 million, a gender-responsive system of approach to healthcare in the Philippines. I guess they want better ladyboys. I don't know. $5.5 million for advancing gender equality, resilience, opportunity, and inclusion worldwide. And lastly, another one I wrote down, $8.2 million for advancing gender equality and women empowerment in Africa. Again, on the face, it's like, oh, it's nice stuff, but not on the back of knowing that Canadians are going to the food bank, right? That we have rampant inflation, that our country's not doing good. We have veterans that are homeless in the streets. Like, let's take care of our own little ecosystem first, right? Let's take care of our country, and then we'll help other countries. But we're sending money, like, for gender studies or gender freaking rights abroad in countries, by the way, that don't respect most of the time, you know, the inclusion and the diversity that we have here, right? Dude, it's a scandal. It's an outrage. And people are just there like, whatever, who cares? Yeah. And this ties in, you know, I whipped out a quote here from Milton Friedman. All right. Amazing guy.
I never heard of him.
You don't know?
I know.
Really?
I know.
Fuck, I would have been like, dude.
No, I know.
I'm starting to question you.
Yeah.
Right? But no, of course you know who he is. And Jesus fuck. All right. And this is why Canadians should care. This is exactly why, like, when he read this, I was like, fuck, okay? So he's like, keep your eyes on one thing and one thing only. How much is government spending? Because that's the true tax. Every budget is balanced. There's no such thing as an unbalanced federal budget. You're paying for it. If you're not paying for it in the form of explicit taxes, you're paying for it indirectly in the form of inflation and borrowing. So ultimately, all these little line items, and by the way,
there's no free lunch.
There's no free lunch. And all those fucking crazy, like, stupid shit I've read, okay, that's pulled from a database with 1,700 lines. 1,700's entry. So 12 million here, 21 million there, times 1,700. That's billions of fucking dollars that we send abroad for shady, occult, black, whatever, obscure programs that are not benefiting you, me, him, all of us. We don't get to see a repercussion. And this is our money. This is not like, oh, we won the lottery. This is free freaking winnings. Let's send it and make it rain, you know, go to the bar and buy a round for everyone. This ain't it. This is like, we're in the street scourging through the fucking garbage for food for dinner, and we're sending that money away. Like, it blows my mind. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry at all. But it's like, and by the way, this isn't just happening in the United States. This isn't just happening in Canada. I can promise you, this is happening in a lot of countries, in all the countries across the West. And I bet you anything in countries in Russia, China, I bet you there's waste, fraud, and abuse that's going on with government spending. And that's the thing with government spending. They don't have skin in the game. It's not their money. If it was their money and it was a private company, you could be rest assured they wouldn't be spending all that money. It's just a fact.
It is.
But and like this. So here, I want to change tune just a little bit, and I want to get your opinion on something. So I was talking to one of my buddies last week in Toronto, and he was talking about his wife.
Was it, what's his name? Mike?
We
just gotta give a shout out to we gotta give a shout out to
Mike Curry, who always hates.
What's up, Mike? I can't wait for you to comment.
Let's just take it on face value. Let's say that the polls that they were taking last week, where they said, oh, by the way, most Canadians, which is, by the way, a poll from 1,000 people, but let's just take that at face value. Let's say that that poll is in fact correct, and that most Canadians all of a sudden, out of nowhere, think that Mark Carney is going to do a better job negotiating with Pierre Poilievre, and that the Liberals are in fact going up in the polls, and that all of a sudden we're back to neck and neck since they made the change from Justin Trudeau to Mark Carney. Let's assume that that's true. Okay. I don't think it's true, but let's assume it's true. What do you think the Conservatives need to do from a marketing perspective? So let's put policies aside, okay? From a marketing perspective, what do you think it is that Conservatives need to do in order to win the next election? And I'll just start with the point of what my friend said. So he basically said, he goes, I know my wife has mostly the same values as what I do. One of my buddies, he's a conservative. A newly conservative. I would say 15 years ago, probably not. He was probably liberal like us. And he's like, dude, I'm not conservative because I actually have super conservative values. I'm just conservative because I feel like the Liberal Party has gone completely insane.
Yeah.
And when you're putting, like I said last week, when you're putting tampons in the male washroom, and there's all this gender trans stuff, and the economy's not doing well, I'm going to vote for the Conservative Party coming up. And so, but when he asked his wife, he said, would you ever vote for the Conservatives? And the wife said, no, I would never vote for them because they are anti-abortion and they are against gay rights. This is here in Canada. Mm-hmm. And so that got me to think, well, okay, that's a really bad job that the Conservatives have done with regards to branding, because those things are both not true. And so what would you do, or what advice would you lend to the Conservative Party of Canada to actually do a better job branding themselves to people our age, in particular women?
It's really, really hard, because the Liberals on the left has done such a great job labeling, like you said, conservatives.
Excellent job.
As being, like, for example, abortion is not on the table for this election. And it wasn't, by the way, on the table with the presidential election, but he made it about that.
Yes.
Right? Same thing with women's rights, right? It has nothing to do with that.
Yes.
And Canada, time and time again, I remember Harper, even under Harper, it was a thing. And he had to come out and say, we will never change the abortion laws in Canada. That was back in 2008. You know what I mean?
But what they ended up doing is they spun it, was to basically say, I have that right here. So basically, I got this from back in 2014. So media organizations like the Toronto Star and Globe and Mail, they tried to spin the fact that Harper would not support abortion issues abroad. And they tried to tie that to the fact that he was anti-abortion. But just for the fact in Canada, and again, I'm not lending an opinion on whether I agree or disagree with abortion. Abortion has been legal in Canada since 1988. Okay? Since 1988. Yeah. I'm born in 1988, so I know it's been 36 years.
Math.
So
mathematics.
That's 35 or 36. No, but like it's not a political issue. Yeah. There are some MPs that don't agree with abortion, but it has not been a political issue. It has been legal in Canada since 1988. Yeah. And yet there are still people in Canada that think the Conservative government is anti-abortion.
I know, it's wild.
So, but how do we
counteract it?
Yes, how do we counteract this? I want to kind of brainstorm a little bit.
Because there's two ways to look at this, right? The more you pay attention to a problem, the more credibility and credence you give it, right? So you make it bigger. A lot of times, the best thing to do when there's a problem is just to fucking ignore it. That's one of the 4 laws of power, by the way. Robert Greene, great book. But there's another thing I think of is that there's not a lot of women and surrogate, or there's not a lot of women and also surrogate women under the Conservative label in Canada. And I think we need to bring more women under the Conservative wing. I think, like it or not, women to women, they speak to each other, right? Like they can relate. I think there's a lack of being able to relate. You look at Polyev, and you and I can look at him and be like, yeah, what he says makes sense. And we're very anti-Trudeau because of all the shit that's been done. But ultimately, humans are emotional creatures. And you and I think are fairly logical. We run companies, we're entrepreneurs, we're business people. All in the end, data is data, right? We're going to make our decisions on data. But psychologically speaking, this may not be popular, but women are emotionally driven. So we need to appeal to their emotional nature. And that's exactly what the Liberals are doing by saying, if you vote Conservatives, you're going to lose body autonomy. You're going to lose access to your healthcare, whatever. They spin it in a very emotionally charged gay marriage,
gay rights, whatever.
Yeah. And the fucked up thing too is that the LGBT community represents, let's say, 5% of Canada, if not less, by the way. Okay, but let's say 5%.
Sure.
And yet, by spinning it as Conservatives are anti-LGBTQ, it goes and it touches the heart of every other Canadian who is like, yeah, but like, we don't want to hurt these people, so I don't want to hurt my fellow Canadians. And then you get them to your side. So I think there needs to be a lot more emotional play, and Trump did that very good.
But there's also like, I want to stick on Canada. So, but there's also like, for example, I really didn't think that when Andrew Scheer was basically the front runner for when he was the he
was the leader,
he was the leader of the Conservative Party. He was not a good candidate, and neither was Aaron O'Toole, but like
boring as a dial tone.
Yeah, super boring. But Andrew Scheer, he wouldn't directly he would essentially just say, yeah, I personally don't agree with gay marriage, but what, that's not the stance of my party. And I just think, guys, you are here, the Liberals, and again, I'll give the Liberals credit, they are fucking savages when it comes to winning politics. They're really good at it. They're way better at it than the Conservatives.
Yeah.
And so I think the Conservatives need to take that approach from a branding perspective. Be like, you do not let a guy like that say something like that. You are here to basically win the election. Shut your mouth. Don't say something like that out in the front. And they need to do a much, much, much better job with the fact that they are not actually anti-abortion. They are not actually anti-gay. And I just want to take another article. This is from CBC, Pierre Poilievre, and they're quoting Pierre Poilievre. Same-sex marriage is legal and it will remain legal when I am Prime Minister, full stop. Coming from the CBC. So they are not anti-gay. They are not anti-abortion. And they need to do a way better job at expressing that and delivering that message so that they can capture the women vote, especially millennials. We're both millennials. They are not doing a good job with that. And the fact that, and it's the same thing, my girlfriend as well, when she speaks to her friends, they still think, and maybe it's perhaps the fact that it's, and there's some misinterpretation with this as well, but they tie the Conservative Party of Canada to the Republicans of the United States. Yeah. There's quite a big difference, especially when it comes to abortion. Yeah. But again, like, it's just all from a branding perspective, but it's up to the Conservatives to basically, as opposed to just not really talking about it, because they know that there's a part of the cohort of the people that actually support them. They know that they are actually, in fact, like, they're pro-life. Yeah. And that's fine. But those pro-lifers, I'm sorry to say, they're going to vote Conservative one way or another. And so I think it's actually like super important for them, if they really want to win this next election and they want to actually win with the majority. This is something I think they could easily pick up votes. And with the point that you just said a little bit earlier, if they were to get a female person, in particular a female person in power, to actually come out and just say, guys, look, we're not anti-abortion. Yeah. And explicitly say that over and over and over and over again. And the Liberals are going to try and play these little political tricks. There's like the Bill C-311. They tried to pass, I don't remember exactly what it was, but they'll play games and stuff. But they need to do a better job with this. We're talking about politics and we're talking about winning an election at this point now. The Liberals think this way. If you guys want to keep kind of going too much on your morals, you're just going to keep losing.
You know who's doing that right now? Carney. Carney is doing that.
In what sense?
If you listen to him speak economically and what he wants to do, he sounds like a conservative. Every point he's bringing up, by the way, are conservative talking points. He's just ripping the playbook of the Conservatives, using it, because he knows damn well. Every liberal is going to, like, the diehard, like, social liberals, you know, the people that are, like, you know, super pro DEI, LGBTQ, you know, like fucking.
They're going to vote for him anyways.
They're going to vote for him anyways, right? So he needs to appeal, and that's a great point. He needs to appeal to the people that are a little bit more center or on the fence.
It's like Charlie Kirk would say when they were trying to win the Trump election, there's a 7%. The people on the right, you're never going to change. The people on the right, never going to change. The people on the left, never going to change. We got to fight for that 7% in the middle. But continue.
But so I think, and you're right in your assertion completely. I like the point that you made. Liberals are really good at politics. And I think, again, it's a matter of principle, I think, and that's the reason why Conservatives may not be as good, is because the Liberals have an unbelievable loyalty and allegiance to the party. Their whip, right, is insanely strong, right? So, like, the Liberal whip in the House will make sure that everyone votes en bloc. There's no dissent ever for any votes. But the Conservative, coming from more of a libertarian, laissez-vivre, laissez-faire, says, look, this is what the party wants, but I really believe in the rule of law and the ability for every MP to make their choice, what's best for their riding. So there's more of a leniency to let the MPs vote how they feel. You're seeing it as well in the US, and let's keep it to Canada, but in the US, you look how often Republicans, let's say, will not vote in favor of a bill that is proposed by a Republican, right? Or the confirmation in the Senate of a goddamn government, a president, Republican president appointed, let's say, cabinet member, but yet Republicans don't support it. But the same is not true with the Democrats. Democrats always vote as a bloc. Well, in Canada, it's the exact same. The Liberals always vote as a bloc. The Conservatives tend to let people their freedom to choose. And for me, I'm torn. Because, again, I believe in the principle of freedom of people to make their choice. And I understand that the party does not necessarily represent every person in every riding. And I think it's right that someone from, let's say, the riding in Sudbury votes for something different than a conservative near Toronto who has different needs. But at the same time, when you're playing against a group like the Liberals that are just united, like there's no tomorrow, whenever their own members are not backstabbing Trudeau, you know, it's hard to play politics with that. So I don't know, man. I'm torn.
I don't know. I just feel like I guess this definitely does open up the door, because it's like give an inch, take a mile, where it could drastically change there's like unintended consequences to kind of changing the thought process or the.
Well, question for you. Okay?
Yeah.
And this is just came to me. Political parties really dominate the politics in Canada. Are you pro political parties, or do you think everyone should just be independents?
I am.
Or should we have more political parties?
I mean, we should definitely have more political parties, but I mean, there's just like, there's such a, you need like a media machine behind them. There's brand recognition. And I just think it's like, again, we've been focused on the concept of brand. Brand is so important. There's a legacy behind it. And I think that people like yourself and I that are actually super informed and like to keep informed with the stuff because we're actually just interested in it. I think for us it would make sense, but for the average person, they couldn't give a shit about politics. They couldn't give a shit about who they're going to vote for. And up until the age of 24, I would say just like I'm literally going to go check out the politics for 10 seconds and go, oh, I like this guy. So it's like you only get one chance to make a first impression.
Yeah.
And so I think that I'm not really answering your question, but I think if we're just going to go with like what politics actually is on its face, it's a marketing game.
Yeah.
My grandmother, Nana, why do you vote for Justin Trudeau? Oh, he's so handsome. But this is the reality. How many other grandmothers are like that?
I've heard girls, 20-year-old girls say that.
But there's something about that. You know what I mean? So it's just like the conservatives, like the liberals play to people's emotions. And that's why, typically speaking, a lot of up until recently, but a lot of younger people used to vote for the liberals. And the conservatives speak to sound thoughts and sound principles. And it's basically like, okay, well, it'd be really nice. Yeah, I'd love to have $1 million for everyone here, but there's also the reality and the constraints and money constraints and taxes, and we have to do this, and there's debt, and there's only so many people that can get jobs. So we have to actually deal with the reality, what we have in front of us. Therefore, we're going to actually do this. But that's why there is like a balance. And that's why, honestly, we both need each other. We need liberals. We need to have conservatives. That's like the yin and the yang. And when the pendulum swings too far one way, it just swings back the other way. And I wish people would just stop getting so mad at each other. And sometimes we're both guilty of it as well.
Of course.
But it's just like I don't like the far right. I don't like the far left. And I think a lot of people are actually more reasonable than we actually think. But just back to the task at hand here, the conservatives, if they want to actually win an election, I don't think Pierre Poilievre actually speaks very well to women, millennial women. I don't.
Yeah.
And there's no other like women, like kind of soft, maternal women in the party that speak to.
Because he speaks to men in the sense that we all love the way he just answers questions like, so it seems like you're saying no.
It's very factual.
It's just no, yes, this is what's happening.
Yes.
We like that, but you're so correct. Girls, like it doesn't speak to them, doesn't resonate with them.
No, they're like, wow, that was kind of mean. You know what I mean? No, but that's
without realizing, by the way, the fucking journalist is just trying to catch him.
Of course.
And like spin a story around him.
Of course. It's like, why I said, whoa, why'd you have to be so mean? That was so straight. You and I are like, yo, fuck that idiot. Yeah. Like, put him in his place.
That's right.
No, but it's true. Like, we can like move on from this. But I don't know if anyone from the Conservative Party is listening right now, I think you guys have, you have a great opportunity right now. And I'll say this flat out. If they don't win, if you guys don't win a majority in the next election, that's their own damn fault.
Oh, yeah.
That's their own fault. And you guys don't know what you're doing. And I think there's just a really easy way for you guys to actually, you're not doing a bad job with the marketing of it, but I think there can be a better job. And I don't know what all the data is and what all the polling data is. And again, I don't really trust the polling data. If we just look at the 2016 election with Donald Trump, the most recent election in 2024, who the hell knows what polls? But just speaking to people myself and women myself, it's like, I don't know, that you never, ever, ever, ever hear about a woman that's going to vote conservative unless their boyfriend or their husband is conservative. No, it's true, bro. I'm like, how often? It's true. It's true because the boyfriend or the husband has the time to explain to them. And I'm not trying to insult women. I'm just saying it's like they don't really care about it. And then so, like if you're explaining to them and talking to them, oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. But you're sitting around them for hours and hours and hours and hours. They're just not interested. So I think at its face value, like the Conservatives need to do a better job trying to get an additional cohort of the population if they want to actually win and the next election and have a majority.
Yeah, that's a great point. And the worst part is this: even some of the most divisive topics like abortion, whenever I sit down and I take time to explain things to someone, like their mind changes, like, and it's fucking touchy, but like, people in Canada like abortion all the time. And I say, okay, cool. Did you know that in Canada, legally speaking, there's no deadline to when an abortion can happen? You could have an abortion up to delivery. People are like, whoa, that's fucked up. I didn't know that. Yeah, most doctors won't do that. They won't perform it past 20 weeks. I get that. But it's like, so would you be opposed to having a law on abortion that says like caps it at 20 weeks? Well, that's reasonable. Did you know that in Europe, all countries except for 2, it's 12 weeks? Oh, I didn't know that. They just don't realize the facts, but they hear on the news like they're anti-abortion. It's like it's the end of the fucking world. It's taken the time to explain it, but you need, sadly, through the media and through like mass campaigning, you don't have the time to sit down and do the logic and do the kind of like, I have your attention, I'm going to explain things to you. So you need to appeal to their emotions. And that's a tough sell for sure. Like you said, if the Conservatives lose the next election or don't get a majority, I do believe it's on them. Although I will also say kudos to the Liberals for pulling all the dirty tricks in the books. The tricks in the books, but the dirty tricks in the books to try to hold on to power. I'm still going to vote. I'm going to vote now for Freeland, by the way. That's I made my choice. I'm voting for Freeland. She has the
Didn't
best.
she get taken out of the race? Apparently there's like foreign interference or something, or like
She's
the
still there
media
for now.
reported that there's foreign interference.
Well, of course, and that's what's crazy, right? Notice the media. Again, the media is the fourth estate, right? That's what it is. They're just systematically picking off people until you have the presumptive nominee, the chosen one.
Yes.
And none of us voted for
And they'll leak these stories and they'll do
And fun fact too, the people in, again, the US saying like, nobody elected Elon Musk. Yeah, also nobody elected Kamala. You know what I mean? Like, it's like nobody in Canada, nobody's going to elect our prime minister. We're about to have a prime minister that is unelected. Appointed. Heck, even worse than that. We're about to have a prime minister that doesn't even hold a seat in the House
I
of
saw
Commons.
that. I was listening to this too, where apparently because he's not technically an MP, that to go to the debate in the House of Commons, like it's essentially he's going to be making decisions, and he doesn't have to go to the floor to actually have those debates. Like the debates,
He's not going to have to, because he's not a member of the House of Commons. He's not allowed in there. Now, in the Constitution of Canada, following the Westminster parliamentary system, it is true that the Prime Minister is appointed, right? The only requirement, it's appointed by the Governor General, aka the King. The only requirement is that the Prime Minister command the confidence of the House. That is the only requirement. You could be Prime Minister. I could be Prime Minister, by the way, please. Actually, I want a Governor General position. That's the most cushy job ever. I'd love that. But I
heard working for the federal government is pretty cushy too.
Oh, not bad.
Well, that technically is the federal government.
By the way, did you know that Trudeau gets paid more than the U.S. president?
No.
Trudeau makes $406,000.
After conversion, I don't think it's more.
Nowadays, it's true. Good point. But I did
go on, sir.
No, but I don't exactly have the. Oh man, I got to find the numbers. But it was someone asking questions like, how did and then you wonder all these slush funds and whatever. But how did Trudeau get so rich? When he entered politics, Trudeau was worth about estimated $7.98 million, and now today is worth like upwards of $80 million on a 400.
I heard 100 or
let's say 100,
whatever.
right?
Yeah,
let's round it up to 100, and that's on a 400,000 Canadian dollars a year salary. So then you wonder, how did that happen? Now I know you made a killing on the legalization of cannabis. Right. I told you this. He had some numbered companies that purchased positions in a lot of cannabis companies before he announced.
Yeah, he pulled a Nancy Pelosi.
And that is the biggest insider trader ever.
They all do it. And it's like left and right. They're all the same.
Absolutely.
And it's straight up. So I'm not just going to hammer the Liberals here, or I'm not just going to hammer the Democrats here. The Republicans do it as well.
The same thing, yes.
And it's straight up insider trading.
Yeah.
It's full blown out in front of your face, insider trading. They all do it. And they're the ones that pass the legislation. They're the ones that pass the laws, and they're not going to change it. The fact, like Nancy Pelosi, they have trading platforms now, or they have like these funds that basically just exactly to a T mirror Nancy Pelosi's trades, and they always make money.
Killing it.
Crazy.
And all they have to do is disclose their trades. That's it. That's the requirement. It is so crooked. But yeah, so Trudeau made a shit ton. He made a killing from the cannabis legalization. Because imagine if your government's going to pass a law legalizing cannabis in Canada, and there's all these little tiny kind of grassroots companies that are like begging for licenses, but nobody cares because it's like, again, it's cannabis, it's illegal right now. And imagine you come in, you swoop in, I'll buy like 10% for like fucking $1 million. You know what I mean? Some ridiculous number. And then legalize.
Yeah.
Their freaking cap, their oh my God, I was gonna say cap rate, not that. Their market cap. Yeah. I'm thinking real estate right now, but their market cap shoots up to like $1 billion overnight.
Well, it's kind of like the same thing. I don't know if I was discussing this with you last week, but it's like TikTok coming into America. So Donald Trump's basically there saying, so like the American arm is going to, I don't know exactly what's going to be done or for now, but the American arm is going to be spun off into America. And Donald Trump's like, well, this company only exists if I say it exists. Yeah. What's the value of that company? You know what I mean?
It's true.
So is he going to buy it for $1? Is he going to buy it for 500? Like, I have no idea.
But
Nobody knows.
In the so Trump last week actually spoke about creating a American sovereign wealth fund.
I did. I heard about that.
And he was talking. He's like, yeah, you know what? Maybe TikTok could be our first acquisition for the wealth fund.
Yeah.
Like, that's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff. I mean, I'm going to say this and we'll just go back and we keep repeating it. But I got to say, man, I don't agree with everything that Trump says or everything that Trump does, but one thing that I do really like about the fact that Donald Trump just got elected is that it really put us on our toes. It really not taught us, it's forced us to basically get back to the drawing board and go, hey, by the way, why do we have interprovincial trade barriers? Why do we have, I didn't know this. There was a fact I heard the other day on LinkedIn from, I don't know from which province it is, but when you're driving across when a 45-foot truck transporting something, the reflection lights in one province is legal, in the other province it's not legal. So you have to stop when you pass the border and take off the reflection lights. Just dumb shit like this, and it's just like, no, but it's
what a waste.
It's absolutely crazy. There's so many things that we could be doing as a country, and my honest opinion, if we don't get our act together, and I think we will get our act together just because we're going to be forced to. If we don't get our act together, I mean, straight up, if I'm Donald Trump, like, guys, you can't get your act together. I'm just going to come in and take what I want. I'll take my resources.
What are we going to do about it?
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
And that's always the funniest part about Canadians. They can't do that. Bro, they could do whatever they want. They can. If they really want to come in and do something and take over Canada, they can do it tomorrow in literally 5 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's like legit.
Ultimately, yes. They've violated sovereignty left and right, up and down. They'll find a reason. They'll do it. Who cares?
Yeah.
It's America. I mean, look,
they have the guns.
I'm not saying it's right.
It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong.
Ultimately, in the world, in politics, right, there's like different tranches, layers. But the top layer of politics, or diplomacy if you want, it's called, and for real, it's called bigger gun diplomacy.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
Whoever has the bigger gun wins.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like someone was saying that about the NATO agreement. It's like, no, it's illegal. The Americans can't do that. I go, oh, yeah? I go, I start kind of laughing. I'm like, and who enforces these laws? Like, well, they all enforce them together. I go, would you agree with the fact that the United States, if they wanted to, could wipe this country, this country, this country, and this country combined all together? They can wipe them off the face of the earth? Yeah, probably. I go, bro, America could wipe their ass with that contract if they wanted to. Yeah, like, at the end of the day, it's like rules are only as strong as they are enforceable.
Exactly.
So, and at the end of the day, it's like the American, and this is also to add to your point, the American dollar is the American dollar because they have all the guns.
That's right. And, backed by the full faith and credit of the American government and the tanks. It's absolutely, you're correct. Ultimately, no matter what you wrote on paper, oh man, that cracks my, you know what? It reminds me of last week. Last week I had to call a client of ours, actually. Okay. We had to deal with them. Let's call it like an $80,000 deal. And it was all inclusive, like hosting and whatnot. And you know what, man? For real, inflation has like gone to a point now where like our hosting for servers, for the licenses that we use from third parties, it's getting pretty expensive. And it's like a multi-year contract with them. And I'm like, you know what? I can't justify supporting their platform anymore, like paying out of pocket for them to host it. I reached out and said, look, listen, it's going to start being $750 a month. I'm going to charge you every month. It's not much, it's like $9,000 a year. But I can't keep paying the hosting for you guys anymore. And they're like, yeah, but they worked out the agreement. They're like, yeah, but the agreement says that. I'm like, you're correct. The agreement says that. All right, things have changed. All right, I won't pay for it anymore. So I'm giving you till Friday, or else I'm pulling the plug. It's like, but that's against the agreement and whatever. We're going to sue you. I'm like, you can sue me, and that's going to cost you considerably more than paying $750 a month. So clearly you have the money. Yeah, but it's just wrong. And they kept saying the agreement. I'm like, look, miss, it was a lady. I'm like, I like you. You're nice. You're everything. Okay, and you're right. What I'm doing right now is not per the agreement. I feel bad for it. I really do. But ultimately, money is money. You either pay or we pull the plug. And no matter how much she was trying to convince me, I was like, it's one or the other. There's no ifs or buts. Who cares what the agreement says?
And like at that point too, if she really didn't agree, you're like, well, I'm just not going to do the project.
Oh, well, we would just pull the plug Friday.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that their team reached out to us this morning saying like, oh, we're trying to reach the platform. It's not working. They didn't even tell their team that we pulled the plug, you know? So we did. We just pulled the plug.
They ended up pulling the plug.
I pulled the plug.
Because she didn't want to pay $750 a month.
Yeah, because
out of principle.
Out of principle. So we pulled the plug. Sorry, it is what it is, right? So America can and will do way worse than that. Because unlike America, I ain't got many guns. Okay, I got some guns, but not big tanks. So that's the difference. Look, ultimately, America also needs to protect their national sovereignty, their national security, their economy. I read one of the comment, the guy's like, yeah, we're just going to get closer to China. We're just going to export our stuff elsewhere. I'm like, first of all, it's going to cost you 10 times million more to do so. But second of all, every country wants to export to the U.S., wants to do business in the U.S. And Trump said that best last week, actually. He said, it is a privilege to have access to the greatest economy in the world. It is not a right.
Yep.
You know, none of us have a right to sell our products to the U.S. And ultimately, if we don't want to play ball with them, that's it. It is what it is.
And like speaking of that, just the last point that I want to end on. So, you know, we were talking about Donald Trump saying we need to have stronger borders. We need to get the fentanyl issue under control. And now all of a sudden, all the fentanyl stuff is starting to pop up and on the media. And so this is a post from X. And then so this is insane. Largest fentanyl lab in the history of the world busted in Vancouver. Chinese organized crime, possibly Iran. Liberals won't release data and information. 100 million doses shipped south to northwestern U.S. on ships through our ports that have no law enforcement. Anyways, so it's essentially that, again, Trump is saying this. Canada goes, what are you talking about? That's not true. Our law enforcement is so weak and so incompetent that essentially, so like, well, you see all these captures where we're catching basically illegal migrants. We're capturing all of the illegal drugs that are going across the borders. It's essentially a Canadian will go like, you see, that's not very much. It's not very much because there's no like enforcement at the borders at all, and there's no enforcement. There's basically like they're letting a bunch of people out on bail. There was a guy that just got caught with like $50 million worth of meth. He was let out on bail in Canada.
Oh man. Yeah,
no, but like this is
it.
the type of stuff that finally, I'm not going to go off on a rant, that finally Canadians are actually going, if we don't take this stuff seriously, like what the hell is going on here? But I will say this. This is 9 years of the current administration. I don't think they're doing a very good job. No. A lot of Canadians don't think they're doing a very good job. And I'll end with saying that if the Conservatives do not win a majority government in the next election, this will be their own damn fault.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Fucking right.
Would you like to add anything else before we finish?
Do you want to hear a conspiracy theory?
Yeah, tell me. Last thing. So I'm not going to take credit for this. I read this on X, okay? But I mean, if you put yourself just in the shoes, right, real quick, and tie it into the fact that we know that China, I go back to China, they like to buy our politicians. So the Canadian government is a walking security threat. In 2020, a Chinese state-owned mining company bought the Hope Bay mine, a distressed and heavily indebted underground gold mine in Nunavut. All right, that's the top of Canada. Okay, and I have a picture of it. We're talking the top, north. Okay, with a significant operational challenge. The mine is at tidewater in the only part of the high Arctic that reliably has open water every summer. It has a deep water port, an underground mine shaft only a few hundred meters from tidewater, and a fully functioning aerodrome and a mining camp. The central location on the map, okay, they showed a map, which shows the mine at an equal distance from almost every large city in America, says it all. And with no roads to reach the location by land, no one would have any oversight over what could have gone on there, what ships or submarine could come and go under cover of supplying the mine, or what is stored out of sight in that shaft. If a hostile actor wanted to establish an easily supplyable location with plenty of time to build up a secret future military base from which to launch a surprise missile attack on America from a wholly unexpected direction in the event of a war, all legitimized under the cover of mining activity, there truly isn't a better location.
And now it makes you wonder, perhaps, we don't have all the information, but could the whole 51st state shit also just be due to the fact that Trump knows that our government is co-opted or sympathetic to enemy states or, hostile governments, adversarial governments of the U.S., and as such, they see Canada now literally as unredeemable. We need to take it over for our national security. I don't know. Look, this is just, I did not audit or fact check if this is true.
Yeah.
But if it is for real, and a Chinese mining, state-owned Chinese mining company bought that mine, and on the map, it's insane, dude. We're talking like the high Arctic. It's like shit, because nobody's going to be policing. There's no RCMP up there, right? There's no Canadian Customs up there. And shipping routes, you bring some shady shit up there. I don't know, man. Could be. So that's the conspiracy.
Thanks for tuning in today. Thanks, Elliot.
Thanks, Curtis.